This might just be one of the most insane situations I've ever seen in gaming. It is already dead. Not even 2 weeks and Concord is getting shut down. Now, I'm making this video right off the bat when this got announced on the PlayStation blog by the game director for Firewalk Studios, Ryan Ellis. And let's just check out this big statement from Ryan over here before we talk some more about this. I swear to God, I was completely unprepared for this, but I just gotta give you guys my reaction on this because it's absolutely insane. All right, so on the PlayStation blog, we get this update called an important update on Concord that already has 1,031 likes, but no comments, interestingly. Concord fans, we've been listening closely to your feedback since the launch of Concord on PlayStation 5 and PC and want to thank everyone who has joined the journey aboard the North Star. Your support and passionate community that has grown around the game has meant the world to us. However, while many qualities of the experience resonated with players, we also recognize that other aspects of the game and our initial launch didn't land the way we'd intended. Therefore, at this time, we've decided to take the game offline beginning September 6th, 2024. That's in 3 days. And explore options, including those that will better reach our players. I apologize a little bit for laughing. This is kind of my way to just break things down in my head because this is sheer insanity. I can't believe this is actually happening. While we determine the best path ahead, Concord sales will cease immediately and we will begin to offer a full refund for all gamers who've purchased the game for PS5 or PC. Damn, now I'm actually feeling like I want to try the game out because I'm still gonna get a refund? If you purchase the game for PlayStation 5 from the PlayStation Store or PlayStation Direct, a refund will be issued back to your original payment method. Pretty generous. Customers who purchase from other digital storefronts will also be refunded. More information about refunds from Steam and Epic can be found below. And then there are different days and, periods of time that you have to wait until you get your refund. But they leave off this message, we'll keep you updated and thank you again to all the free gunners who have joined us in the Concord Galaxy, meaning that they're probably trying to do something with the game, I would assume, because let's just get this straight. This game has obviously cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't know the exact numbers. I don't think anybody else outside of PlayStation does, but this has been a very costly game. Just look at the cinematics for it. The game looks relatively all right in terms of graphics, but man, the character designs are absolutely awful. I don't know what they were thinking here. The gameplay seems just like a kind of a boring flat mix of something like Overwatch combined with Guardians of the Galaxy. It just looks all super uninteresting. Now, I made a previous video on this where I just talked about why I specifically myself didn't want to try this game out, and one of these roadblocks was obviously the fact that the game was $40 just to play a multiplayer shooter game that doesn't really offer anything new compared to other of its contemporaries. And speaking of that, we do actually have an idea of about how many copies that Concord has sold, and that's about 25,000 copies overall, both on PlayStation and on PC. And if we just say that the game obviously has cost at least $100 million to make, because that is what most AAA games cost to make nowadays, because you just have to include the salary for hundreds of devs over the course of several years, so you easily get a number of like 100 million if you want to keep their wages above average, I guess. Now, it's also important to keep in mind that a lot of the sales for most games come in during the launch and just a couple of weeks after launch, and then it's a low trail after. And that's usually how it is for most games. And if we just take 25,000 and multiply that by $39.99, we get a number of $999,750, or roughly $1 million. And you can already see where this is going. If this game cost over 100 million, they've only made back 1/100th of what it cost to make this game. And I don't even know if we're including all the marketing and acting and everything else that goes with the production of the game aside from just programming and making the gameplay and stuff. I'm just gonna come out and say this outright. This has to be the biggest AAA flop ever in the history of forever. It's incredibly sad. This is incredibly tragic, but I mean, the writing was sort of on the wall when I first saw this game. Not that it was gonna crash this hard. I didn't think that this game would flop. Nevertheless, this hard. This is, again, this is absolutely insane. I can't really wrap my head around it. It just doesn't make sense when you really think about it, like how bad this has flopped. Now, if we just go to Steam charts here and just check out the stats, of course, you know, there is the all-time peak of 660 players. Now, interestingly though, for some reason, the amount of players popped up to 109 as we're speaking, or the last hour. So for some reason, some people that might have read the blog post, like 6 people felt like, hey, I probably should try this game out because yesterday we had 103 maximum players, or this was actually this morning here in Sweden. So yeah, just earlier today, I guess, there were 103 people playing, and now it's 109. So at least they got some interest garnered here. At least like 6 people found it interesting enough maybe to try the game out. I don't know. I'm just assuming here, but really, again, it's barely been 2 weeks, and I wonder how this is going to affect Firewalk and Sony and their choices in the future, because a flop such as this, it should tell them what to focus on and what not to focus on. And I think it just goes to show how fast times are changing. First of all, looter shooters isn't really the most interesting thing in the world. Secondly, this game just was not interesting from the very get-go. And live service only works for a set amount or type of games. It doesn't always work nowadays for, you know, team-based shooter games anymore, because it's just a dime a dozen these days. And just the look of the game, the art, the vibe, everything about it was just not speaking to me and so many millions of other gamers. So I don't blame anyone for not finding Concord interesting as a product. It looks like the most forgettable game I've seen since Redfall, honestly. Now, one thing that I can't stop thinking about is whether they're gonna reintroduce the game as a free-to-play game later on and just do what every other like team-based shooter game is doing, essentially. And that is just going live service still, but just having it free-to-play so more people can just get in on it. Because I probably would have tried the game out just for the sake of doing it, because YouTube is my job, if only it didn't cost $40. I mean, that was a pretty hard sell for me for a game that already looks really uninteresting. Now, again, I don't have any clue of what's going on inside the game other than I've read reviews, I've seen videos where people talk relatively well about the gameplay aspect of it itself, but that's not enough to sell me on something that is pretty much just a cookie cutter Guardians of the Galaxy version of Overwatch. It's just not interesting as a selling point, I guess. In any case, I apologize for this, a little bit of a chaotic video here, but I just had to talk about this because this is one of the most surprising things I've seen in a long time. But I do wonder what you guys have to think about this, so remember to comment in the comment section below. It's just so amazing to me, like, that something like this can happen, that something like this, like such a catastrophe of a launch, can have such rapid ramifications. Because even Suicide Squad, right, which a lot of people already see as a flop, that game is still alive somehow, albeit they unfortunately were affected by layoffs just the other day, so, you know, I guess that makes sense with how Suicide Squad turned out, because it just didn't sell well either, but it sold many, many, many times more than what Concord did. And so I guess it makes sense that Suicide Squad is still sort of alive in a sense. Really, what I think we can see in real time here is the fall of the classic live service model. Because we're seeing more and more games like this that release and they don't sell that well, or they don't make enough money to sustain their developers and their studio and their publishers. And I think this is sort of the final nail in the coffin, hopefully, and that we can go back to creating incredibly in-depth single-player experiences and multiplayer games that is just not completely wrought with just microtransactions and live service garbage. Hopefully this is a sign of things to come, because I really hope that publishers and studios look at this, look at Concord as an example of what not to do when launching your games. Because again, I feel for the actual developers for this game. They're probably all very talented programmers and gameplay designers. But when your vision for your game is this, I don't know, man. Anyway, leave those thoughts down below as always. Have a great day. Mr. Olton signing out.